Hey everyone, Alpha Eagle here again. Welcome back to my channel. I pray you're all doing well, and may God bless you all. How, Kimo-subbies? I promise I'll finish part 2 of Grayson's Trail of Tears someday, but I wanted to talk about this Charlie Ramsey character from the modern Ultimates comics. The Fandom Initiative queers were lying about this issue as usual, so I'm here to correct their lies. First, let's hear from Eric Debunks.
Some very cool news today that also happens to fall on Indigenous Peoples Day, which I don't think was by chance, and that is a new iteration of Hawkeye. Now, this is from the Ultimates universe.
This news actually dropped on Columbus Day. You know, the day we celebrate when Western civilization came to the Americas. You know, you should thank Christopher Columbus, Eric, because without him, you wouldn't be here. Continuing.
And it's a new version of Hawkeye. Charlie Ramsey is a Native American who identifies as non-binary and two-spirit, so falling under that queer umbrella. Shout out to them for doing this. We don't have a lot of characters who represent this demographic in comics. Any increase in that is a great increase, in my opinion.
I honestly don't know which demographic he's talking about. Is he talking about American Indians or the queers? Because there are a lot of each in comics. In fact, I would argue that both are possibly overrepresented. I mean, American Indians make up less than 3% of the population, and those who falsely claim to be non-binary make up about 1% of the population. Also, so-called non-binary is an imaginary gender, therefore an accurate representation would be 0 in comics. So they are definitely overrepresented. Continuing.
This version of Hawkeye is an additional Hawkeye. They're not replacing any other version of the character. Let's take a look at what...
That's a lie. In this issue, Charlie Ramsey literally replaces a man who was originally offered the superhero title of Hawkeye. A man, supposedly Clint Barton, is offered the title of Hawkeye by this universe's Tony Stark. The man quits, Spider-Man style, by throwing his costume and weapons in the garbage can, and Charlie Ramsey then steals the man's costume and weapons and later replaces the man as the second man in this universe to hold the title of Hawkeye. When someone takes a position originally intended for someone else, I call that replacing them. Wouldn't you, Eric? Continuing.
Let's take a look at what two-spirit means. So up here it says two-spirit is a contemporary pan-Indian umbrella term used by some indigenous North Americans to describe Native people who fulfill a traditional third gender or other gender variant social role in their community.
Okay, there's a major thing that Eric is purposely omitting about the term two-spirit, and that is it's actually a slur. In an article titled, What It Really Means to Identify as Two-Spirit in Indigenous Culture, an American Indian is interviewed, and he says that the term two-spirit is used as a slur in the American Indian community. So, when you call an American Indian two-spirit, you're essentially calling them a bundle of sticks or a British cigarette. You'd think Eric would know this. So, the queer community appropriated this slur and changed its meaning in an attempt to legitimize the supposed existence of so-called non-binary people in past cultures, and to falsely increase their numbers. Continuing.
Now, if you are somebody who is Native American, indigenous, or have any information on this that you would like to provide, please feel free to do that in the comments below.
Well, perhaps you'd like the opinion of It's a Gundam, since he is an American Indian.
I've stated numerous times that I've given up on modern Marvel after the Secret Invasion, and so far, I have yet to regret it. Read anime. It's so much better. Part of me wants to be biased towards Echo, considering that she is native and of Latin descent. I can totally relate.
This is modern Marvel writing. Lopez's father was William Crazy Horse Lincoln. The odds of someone being named Tushunka Wiko is so thin. It'd be like meeting a Chinese dude nicknamed Bruce Lee. That just don't make any sense. Literally, the writer was like, famous Native American, Crazy Horse. Jesus Christ.
But just like with any announcement of any queer character or marginalized character in comic books that is carrying on a legacy mantle or being introduced as a Elseworlds, a What If, or another universe story, anytime it comes along, we get a bunch of pushback, and a lot of it doesn't really make sense. One of them we got from one of the usual suspects, which is Melanie Mack here, who went on to say, AKA a mentally ill man, lol.
The great Melanie Mack makes a very valid point. If someone claims to be non-binary, they claim to be neither a man nor a woman. Since humanity has only two sexes and sex is the exact same as gender, one can rightfully assume that this person suffers from some kind of mental illness. In fact, it seems that this person suffers from gender dysphoria, which is defined as a psychological condition that describes a person's distress or discomfort when their gender identity differs from the sex assigned, I would say, observed at birth. So Melanie Mack's comment is very accurate. What's funny is that people on the left sometimes seem to be proud and even brag about having a mental condition like being autistic or bipolar. It makes them feel unique and special. Yet, they get offended when someone accurately suggests that their so-called gender identity or sexuality might be the result of a mental condition. It's very strange. Continuing.
People that do this, they're just engaging for money. Elon has now made it possible for them to monetize hatred and outrage. It is about money for her, just like it is for a lot of people. Nerdrotic has admitted it when he talks about his Miles Morales tweets.
First, Eric, what makes you think that Melanie Mack's tweet is hateful? She said laugh out loud. That would indicate to me that she found the news funny, and she wasn't angered by it and didn't hate it. Second, you don't personally know Melanie Mack or Gary from Nerdrotic, so you can only assume that they're making these tweets only for money. In fact, I'm going to play a clip that these guys claim to be a gotcha. They claim that in this clip, Gary is admitting that he makes these tweets only for money.
But I'm making $1,000 off of Miles Morales tweets. Shit I would do for free.
That's not the gotcha you guys think it is. In fact, it proves your claim that Gary only makes tweets for money is wrong. Gary clearly says that he would make his Miles Morales tweets for free. Did you guys hear that? He said for free. So it's clear to anyone with a normally functioning brain that Gary does not make his tweets for the money. But these guys don't have normally functioning brains. Also, I believe that Gary made his first Miles Morales tweet before Elon Musk made it possible to monetize tweets. So these guys are lying yet again. As a capitalist, I don't see anything wrong with someone doing something for money. I believe that Eric is a DJ. At a gay club, of course. Eric, are you saying that there's something wrong with you being a DJ for money? Well, I'll say there is something wrong with working at a gay club, but that's beside the point. Eric, you get paid to be a DJ, and Gary and Melanie get paid to be YouTubers. Except for the gayness, I don't see the difference. These guys will claim that the difference is that Gary and Melanie are dishonest grifters who somehow scam their audience and they don't actually believe what they say, and I have yet to see any evidence of this. Anyway, continuing.
Just Charlie is not a man. Again, they identify as two-spirit.
Rick, what is Charlie Ramsey's biological sex? His biological sex is male, correct? Therefore, Melanie Mack calling him a man is an accurate label, correct? I'm sure these guys will say his gender is two-spirit. Well, even if I believe that this imaginary gender of non-binary existed, it doesn't matter. Melanie Mack was referring to his biological sex, not his gender. Therefore, she is correct to call him a man. Oh, by the way, let's see how your friend's actual fandom in organized chaos refer to Charlie.
And he's like, "You're a cowboy, Gary Coopin looking motherfucker."
Jesus.
And I'm the Indian. And then he's talking about us. You know what Roxxon Energy Partners does? He's got this inertia canceling arrow that just stops his shield. That's pretty awesome. And then he's kind of kicking his ass in these couple of pages. Cap's not, he's trying to say some stuff, and he's just like, they are kicking his ass. And then finally, Cap is just like, you know what, man, fuck all this stuff, because he just keeps coming. They just keep coming.
Literally 15 pages straight of Hawkeye trying to murder Captain America.
Absolutely.
He uses acid arrows. He uses...
Yes, Hawkeye is trying to get him. And Captain America is surviving. And Captain America doesn't want to kill him. That would actually be incorrect. Not trying to kill them. Captain America doesn't want to kill them. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I will do what I can to respect pronouns, but I'm bad at it. And I apologize. I will always apologize for that. It's just old man brain. Let's check him out. Check them out. I'm terrible about pronouns. I'm sure I misgendered Charlie numerous times during this stream. I don't mean to. I apologize. and maybe just apologize for going forward.
Now see, even they call him him. Even people on your own side can't keep these ridiculous non-binary pronoun rules straight. No pun intended. And the reason is that even they know that this non-binary pronoun crap is all BS. Their brains are telling them that non-binary pronouns are grammatically incorrect. Their brains are telling them that using non-binary pronouns sounds unusual to them. Their brains are telling them that there is something wrong and not right about using non-binary pronouns. Now, I suggest that you actually start listening to your brains, guys. Now, by their own standards, they should be demonetized and kicked off of social media for, quote, misgendering Charlie. Because that's exactly what they would do to Gary, Melanie, or anyone else who has a different ideology from them who, quote, misgendered Charlie. But Bob and Dane get a pass simply because of their ideology. Sure, they'll probably say that it has nothing to do with ideology, and that it's different because Dane and Bob apologized. Well, first, who are they apologizing to? Charlie Ramsey? Do you guys hear yourself? You're apologizing to fictional characters. Do you know how mentally ill that makes you sound? Second, never apologize to someone on the left. For one thing, they'll never accept it. If you have a different ideology from these guys, apologizing is never enough for them. If you have a different ideology from them, they want you subjugated. They want your lives ruined. If you have a different ideology from them, they don't even think you should exist. Also, that's exactly what they want. They want you to bend to their will. They want you to jump through their hoops. Never bow to them.
But mentally ill is another term that has been thrown around to describe anybody who is queer, which was outdated. But these folks, these bigots, desperately want to bring it back. They want to bring it back in full force. So they're going to keep saying it.
First, we're not bigots. We don't hate the queers. We want to help you be free from the illness you suffer from. Second, yes, any mental illness should be labeled a mental illness, and any sexuality other than straight should be labeled a mental illness, since they are not logical. Non-straight sexualities spread disease at a much higher rate, and non-straight sexualities are antithetical to the survival of the human species. Again, saying that a non-straight person is mentally ill is no more harmful than saying someone who is autistic has a mental condition. Homosexuality and other non-straight sexualities were considered mental illnesses as recently as the 70s. Now, this was changed simply because some of the psychiatrists happened to be homosexuals themselves. It wasn't because of some scientific breakthrough proving that homosexuality wasn't a mental illness. Oh no, it's essentially simply because so-called mental health experts simply decided to change it for their own personal reasons. That's it. Now, the good news is that if it was changed, that means it can always be changed back. Now, think about abortion. We finally changed that back to the way it's supposed to be. We can do the same with relabeling non-straight sexualities as mental illnesses.
Middle finger to clown world. Non-binary entitled woke shit. Hawkeye was one of the first examples of a disabled superhero, and this is how they treated him. How about make a new character? Number one, it is a new character.
First, you're really stretching the word new. Can Charlie really be called new if he has the exact same hero name, the exact same ability, the exact same costume, and the exact same weapons of a pre-existing character?
Hawkeye is a mantle, which has been shared over multiple characters. Clint is the character in that mantle that you're talking about. This is not Clint, this is Charlie. Separate character wearing the mantle of Hawkeye. So they're not erasing any of Clint's stuff. Clint is still there. Clint is still Hawkeye, but you're trying to play some sort of oppression Olympics and say that, oh, well, this one thing is being erased by this thing. No, it's an expansion of that umbrella of Hawkeye, and bringing Charlie in is a great way to do that. It's a great way to...
Second, Hawkeye wasn't a mantle for more than 40 years of his existence as a character, until for no reason whatsoever they introduced Kate Bishop. Hawkeye didn't need to pass his title for 40 years, so why now? That's the strangest thing to me. Why so late? Generally speaking, I'm not a fan of passing superhero mantles. I feel it dilutes the character, makes them less special and less unique. Like the saying goes, when everyone's special, nobody's special. But some mantle passings are more acceptable than others in my opinion. The Flash, for example. Barry Allen was created just 16 years after the first Flash, Jay Garrick, and Wally West was created just 4 years after Barry Allen, whereas it took 40 years to force Kate Bishop upon us. And Wally West is Barry Allen's nephew. I'm pretty sure that Kate Bishop and Charlie Ramsey aren't related to Clint Barton. And Wally West started off as Kid Flash for years before he took the mantle of the Flash. It felt more earned than Kate or Charlie. It felt more organic when he became the Flash. Kate and Charlie pretty much said, "Okay, I'm Hawkeye now." And Barry Allen had died, so there was a very valid reason for Wally West to take over. There was no need for Kate or Charlie to take over since Clint is still alive in both universes, so it makes both Kate and Charlie very redundant.
A great way to tell multiple stories. We've already established that bringing in new characters doesn't work. You guys keep saying that, but you don't truly mean it. Riri came in as Ironheart, not a variant of Iron Man. Even though she was inspired by Iron Man, she was not Iron Man. So she came in as Ironheart, brand new character, brand new superhero mantle, and you guys still got mad about that. So all of this idea of like bringing in a new character doesn't matter.
Again with Riri, can you really call her new when she's essentially the same as Tony, only a different gender and race? And while she didn't take on the mantle of Iron Man, she essentially took over for him since he was technically, quote, dead. And again, Rhodey already existed, and he took over for Tony, and he's also black. And we had a previous female Iron Man in Pepper Potts as Rescue, making Riri double redundant. So I don't count Riri as a brand spanking new character. I count a new character as a character with a unique name, a unique costume, and unique powers. And it wouldn't hurt if they weren't racial stereotypes like Charlie is. I mean, he's an American Indian who uses bows and arrows and who is angry about, quote, stolen land and polluting the environment. Like we haven't seen that a million times in pulp culture. It's a tired old trope. Look what actual fandom had to say about this trope.
Yeah, and there's absolutely no reason why this doesn't make all the best sense that there is, like it's fucking amazing.
If you didn't read what actual fandom viewer Jennifer Starbush's comment said, she said, I mean, come on, Native Americans use bows and arrows, so why can't a Native American character portray Hawkeye? First, almost every culture used bows and arrows. Have you not heard of a British character called Robin Hood? They aren't exclusive to American Indians. It's a racial stereotype for American Indians to use bows and arrows. I'm surprised he didn't use a tomahawk, too. He also incorporates feathers and turquoise in his costume. Charlie is a walking stereotype. He's a token, and these guys usually call that stuff out. On the contrary, Bob from Organized Chaos was reacting to Thinking Critical's review of this issue, and Bob seems to be in favor of racial stereotypes. In fact, he didn't know what the American Indian stereotype was called.
Shows up, and of course, it's the virtuous, the what is it? The noble savage trope. You're playing this.
Did you just call Charlie a savage because he's a Native American? Are we really doing this? I mean, holy fucking shit. Okay, racism double feature today. Why not?
Noble savage is a well-known trope in fictional media, but Bob is ignorant of this since he lacks media literacy. There's nothing racist about using the term since that's what the trope is called. The guys at Thinking Critical are not racist for simply pointing out this overused trope. In fact, what they are doing is pointing out the actual racism of Marvel themselves for using this racist stereotype trope. I'm going to use G.I. Joe to give you examples of two American Indian characters, one who's portrayed as a stereotype and another who's not portrayed as a stereotype. Spirit, who wears traditional American Indian clothing, is a tracker, has an eagle as a pet, and has weapons that shoots small arrows. He's clearly a stereotype. I'm not throwing shade at the character of Spirit. He's actually one of my favorite G.I. Joe characters, but we have to face the fact that he's a stereotype. Here we have Airborne. Now, just by looking at him, you might not even know that he is an American Indian. Now, other than his skin color and the fact that he is wearing the color turquoise, there is nothing that really stands out about him as him being an American Indian. Therefore, he's not a stereotype. Now, here we have Charlie Ramsey. On what side does he fall? Charlie Ramsey is clearly a stereotype, and Marvel did this on purpose. They wanted to make sure that at first glance, anyone could tell that he is an American Indian. Or else, how could they milk him as a virtue signal? They are using American Indian culture to score left-wing brownie points. By pandering and using American Indian culture in this manner, they are the ones being racists. I mean, they couldn't even give this character his own superhero name, his own unique power or ability, not even his own unique costume. Oh no, everything he has is a white man's hand-me-downs. Now let's face facts. Charlie Ramsey is a token racist stereotype, used to pander to these far-left activists. And as usual, the Fandom Initiative took the bait, because in actuality, they love racist stereotypes as long as it pushes their far-left ideology. This character was created for one thing, so that the writer can get on his political soapbox and push his hatred of America and his anti-white racism. That's why they had to replace white Hawkeye with an American Indian Hawkeye. They needed Hawkeye to be a so-called victim of America so that they can dunk on America. All Charlie does is cry about stolen land and ruining the environment. Why do you think they had Captain America go against this guy instead of Iron Lad? It would make much more sense for Iron Lad to confront this guy since it's Iron Lad's weapons and equipment that he stole. But no, they had Captain America confront this guy because Cap represents America, and they wanted Charlie, in this case, to lyrically fight against America. And if the writer is so progressive, why didn't they race swap Cap with a non-white character instead of Hawkeye? Because they needed Cap to remain white, so Charlie can berate and mock a white man. Just look at what Charlie says in this panel. Cap says, "Hey, is your spirit name really Charlie Hawkeyes?" Charlie replies, "Pfft, you white people would believe anything." Now imagine if the same thing was said about any other race. Imagine if a white character said, you black people would believe anything, or you Hispanic people would believe anything, or you can substitute any non-white race. Marvel would be called out as racist, correct? But for some reason it's okay to be racist to white people. Now let's hear what the Fandom Initiative's reaction is to this panel.
Is your spirit name really Charlie Hawkeyes? Say, you white people believe anything.
I love that.
That's great.
They love it, because they are self-hating anti-white racists. They want more of this anti-white racism in comics. Now, let's continue with what Eric had to say about this issue.
And lastly, before I go, I want to talk about Cosmic Book News, which you can't make this up. Now Marvel has replaced Hawkeye again. Again, they know it's not replaced. They know this, but they're using the term replace because it's going to get people upset.
Again, replace is a very accurate word to use. I just proved that earlier. Charlie Ramsey literally replaced the man who was originally offered the position of Hawkeye. Continuing.
This time with a woke, non-binary Indian. So there we go. A bunch of just incorrect things to say there. So first of all, Indian, we're talking about an indigenous person, a native. Indian, we know, is not a term that is used in modern language to describe people who are indigenous to this part of the world. But
Indian is a perfectly acceptable term to call American Indians. First of all, Charlie calls himself an Indian in the book. So if it's so outdated, why did they use it in the book? I'm sure they'll say, well, he's allowed to say it since he's an American Indian. Well, then you're treating people differently based on race, and that's racist. Either it's okay for everyone to say it or nobody can say it. Pick one. I would say if you want to treat everyone truly equally, then everyone must be able to say it without social consequences. Here's the late, great George Carlin to explain why it's acceptable and even more accurate to say Indian. I'm sure there is no way that even the Fandom Initiative would call George Carlin a far-right chud.
One more group, the Indians. I call them Indians because that's what they are. They're the Indians. There's nothing wrong with the word. First of all, it's important to know that Indian, that word probably does not derive from Columbus believing he had reached India in 1492. India was called Hindustan. More likely, the word derives from Columbus's description of the people he found here. He was an Italian who spoke very poor Spanish, and in his written accounts, he called the Indians una gente in Dios, a people in God. In God, in Dios, Indians. It's a perfectly noble thing. And I simply can't justify this awkward phrase, Native Americans. First of all, they're not natives. They came here from Asia over the Bering Land Bridge. The truth is, most Indians are insulted by the term Native American. The American Indian movement will tell you that. If you wish to please Indians, try calling them by their traditional names, Pawnee, Mohawk, Navajo, Seminole, and so on.
So, as George Carlin explained, Indian is a perfectly acceptable and even preferred term. The only difference I would make would be to call them American Indians to differentiate them from Indian Americans who are from India. If George Carlin was alive today, people like the Fandom Initiative would try to cancel George Carlin for saying what he just said. That's how far left the far left has moved. That they would consider people like J.K. Rowling and George Carlin to be right-wing. That just proves that we've moved way too far left as a country.
Here we go, comic book news doing it. Woke is now being used as a slur. It's 100% a slur. I would not be surprised if within the next couple of years it does get classified that way, simply because it is used against every diverse thing there is. It is just an all-encompassing term that you throw out when you're talking negatively about something diverse. This community has appropriated this term, taken it away from what it actually meant years ago, and transformed it into something else, and they've done it successfully. And so that's why they're so empowered to take other terms and also do the same thing to them. Woke is just a slur for them now to be used against anything and everything diverse.
The fact that people like Eric think that the word woke should be labeled a slur is evidence that the right is winning. He wouldn't want to ban it if it wasn't working, and even he admits that we've, quote, appropriated it successfully. Now, what he means by this is that the left, specifically black people on the left, used the word woke in the past to mean something totally different. Now, first, how can white people appropriate an English word since white people created English? Second, so you don't like it when white people, quote, appropriate black culture. You mean the way white culture was appropriated when a pre-existing straight white character like Hawkeye was replaced by a queer non-white character. So now you know what it's like to have your culture appropriated. If you don't like it when black culture is appropriated, stop appropriating straight white culture. Third, nobody has the authority to officially turn woke into a slur. Now, are you talking about the ADL? Well, technically they don't have any official power to label something a slur. Or are you talking about social media's terms and services, labeling woke a slur? Now, how would they regulate that? So, anytime someone said something like, I woke up this morning, their channel will be struck down for using slurs? You guys don't really think before you speak, do you?
Trans clone trooper thing that we talked about last week. But you have a character that was introduced 2 years ago, and nothing has happened. There's been no massive disasters with Star Wars because of this character. But they seem to think that the character, the trans character being introduced, somehow is a detriment to Star Wars, even though we know for a fact that it's not.
You're right, Eric. Are you sure that having queer characters in Star Wars doesn't have a negative effect? Are you sure that nothing bad has happened to Star Wars because of queer characters? They didn't have to remove anything from the films so that they could be played in China? Was there any Star Wars TV show that featured queer characters that was canceled recently? You can't think of any bad thing at all that happened to Star Wars that featured queer characters? Nothing? What a short memory these guys have. That's about it for this video. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. I'm Alpha Eagle. God bless you for watching. God bless America. And I pray that the Fandom Initiative guys stop lying to their audience.